Rain splattered across the windshield of the black Bentley Bentayga as it pulled into a quiet street in East London. The driver, a man in a suit with an earpiece, glanced back at his passenger through the rear-view mirror. "Are you sure this is a place, Mr. Costa?" he asked, uncertainty in his voice. Luca Costa, the Brazilian-born world-renowned football superstar, nodded with a quiet smile. "I just want a coffee." "Not everything needs to be 5 stars, Thomas." The driver said nothing more as Luca stepped out into the chilly afternoon. A wool coat covered his athletic frame, his face partly hidden under a cap. He loved moments like these, rare snippets of normal life, unguarded by paparazzi, untouched by screaming fans. The shop he entered was small, the kind of corner cafe that barely made it through the winter. The bell above the door jingled as he walked in, and a warm aroma of coffee and cinnamon welcomed him. A few locals had scattered at small tables, their heads buried in newspapers or laptops. Then he saw her. Behind the counter stood a young woman in a worn black apron, her chestnut hair tied back messily, her skin dusted with flour and espresso grounds. She hummed softly to herself as she prepared a latte, not even looking up when the bell rang. "Be right with you," she called, her voice low but melodic. Luca didn't answer. He stood still, completely entranced. When she finally turned to him, her breath caught. His eyes, hazel with flecks of gold, met hers, and for a long moment, neither said a word. "Hi," she said finally, setting down a cloth and moving to the register. "What can I get you?" He took a second too long to answer. Just a cappuccino." "Please." She smiled, coming right up. Her name was Amelia, 24 years old, working double shifts to pay rent and support her younger brother, who had cerebral palsy. Her life was grounded in responsibility and sacrifice. Mornings in the cafe, evenings at the community center tutoring kids, nights helping her brother with therapy. Luca came back the next day, and the day after. At first, Amelia thought he looked familiar, but she had no time for celebrity gossip or football matches. She only knew him as the cappuccino guy. Always polite, always leaving generous tips she tried not to accept. "You know," she said one Thursday morning, wiping her hands on her apron, "if you keep coming here, you'll turn this dump into a 5-star cafe." He laughed. "Then I guess I'll keep coming." Their conversations grew. He learned about her brother, her dreams of becoming a teacher. She learned that he traveled a lot for work, never quite asking what he did. There was something peaceful about not knowing, about simply being. One rainy afternoon, the truth came out. An older man in a Chelsea FC jacket walked in, did a double take, and exclaimed, "Bloody hell, it's Luca Costa!" Amelia looked up in confusion. "Who?" The man stared at her like she had 3 heads. "Luca Costa, the striker, Premier League, Brazil, World Cup." She turned slowly toward the man she thought she knew. He smiled awkwardly. "Wait," she said, her heart sinking. "You're that Luca Costa?" He nodded. "I didn't mean to lie. I just like being someone else for once." She felt her world spin. "You're famous and rich, and I'm just me." "Exactly," he said gently. "You're you, and that's why I keep coming back." Their relationship didn't follow a script. Amelia was hesitant. How could a girl who counted coins to buy groceries date someone who wore designer suits and flew private? But Luca was persistent in the kindest way. He invited her to matches, but sat beside her, not in the VIP box, but in regular stands where they could cheer and laugh like normal people. He bought her brother a state-of-the-art wheelchair, without making a big deal. He asked her opinion on everything, from house decor to charity work. When he invited her to Paris for a weekend, she almost said no. "I don't belong in your world," she whispered, looking out over the Thames. "I'd rather stay here than feel out of place somewhere else." "You don't have to change for me," he said, taking her hand. "Let me show you that my world is better with you in it." She went. In Paris. They shared kisses under the Eiffel Tower and danced on the balcony of a hotel that overlooked the Seine. Amelia's doubts slowly melted under Luca's sincerity. She began to smile more, laugh louder, and dream again. But the real test came when a photo of them kissing leaked online. The media exploded. Headline screamed, Luca Costa's mystery girl, a barista from East London. Paparazzi camped outside the cafe. Customers whispered and pointed. Her co-workers grew jealous. Luca showed up that night and found her crying in the stockroom. I didn't ask for this, she said, trembling. My life was hard, but it was mine. Now I feel like I'm drowning in your world. He knelt beside her. Then let me teach you to swim. Months passed. Slowly, carefully, their two worlds began to merge. Luca bought a quiet home in the countryside, where Amelia could plant a garden and her brother could have peace. She enrolled in university, something she never thought possible. With Luca's support, not his money, she began to shape her own future. She didn't become a WAG. She didn't sell stories or chase fame. She stayed herself. And Luca never asked her to change. He took her to Ballon d'Or Gala, where cameras flashed and reporters begged for interviews. She wore a modest navy blue dress, her hair in soft curls. She stood beside him, shy but proud. When asked how it felt to date a football superstar, she answered, I'm not dating a superstar. I'm dating Luca. A year later, he proposed. Not in a stadium, not in front of cameras, but in the cafe where they met, now closed for renovation, soon to be reopened as a community space with free meals and literacy programs. Funded by Luca, designed by Amelia. He got down on one knee, holding a ring that was elegant but simple. This is where I found you, and I want to build the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? She nodded through tears. Yes, 1,000 times, yes. Their wedding was small, just family and close friends. Her brother walked her down the aisle. Luca cried more than she did. They honeymooned in Brazil, dancing on beaches and eating street food. She met his family, who welcomed her as one of their own. She held his hand when strangers asked for photos, smiling patiently as always. Back in England, they returned to their new home, a warm, book-filled house with a garden in bloom and music always playing. On weekends, they volunteered together. On weekdays, she taught. He played. They laughed. They loved. Amelia never asked for the luxury. She never cared for the money. What mattered was the man who looked at her like she was magic. And to Luca, that's exactly what she was.